She slept in her car. She temped at an office to pay rent. She auditioned for The Tonight Show 7 times and got rejected every single time. The industry had made up its mind. Joan Rivers was not the kind of woman who got to be funny on television. And then, in February 1965, a comedian bombed on The Carson Show. A last-minute slot opened up, and someone said her name out of desperation. That one accidental night changed everything. But here is what nobody talks about. Getting in the door was the easy part. Joan Malinsky grew up in Brooklyn, graduated from Barnard College, and wanted to be a serious actress. Acting rejected her first. Comedy rejected her slower. Even then, the door barely opened. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the Greenwich Village club scene was full of hungry unknowns. George Carlin, Woody Allen, Richard Pryor. She was right there alongside all of them, grinding the same circuit, playing the same rooms, just with a very different obstacle in front of her. When she walked into a comedy club, bookers assumed she was a singer. Women who were pretty did not do stand-up. Women who were not pretty were caricatures. Either way, the industry had a costume waiting, and she refused to put it on. She was also talking about things women were not supposed to talk about. Body image, S.X, bad marriages, the pressure to smile and be grateful and stay quiet. That material was not edgy in the way that Lenny Bruce was edgy. It was threatening in a different way because audiences recognized it. Women in the crowd knew exactly what she was describing. That recognition made bookers nervous. Funny women were acceptable. Funny women who made other women feel seen were dangerous. The Jack Paar appearance in the early 1960s was supposed to help. It did not. By her own account, it was a disaster, a career setback that took years to recover from. Then came 7 rounds of Tonight Show auditions, 7 different producers, 7 rejections. By early 1965, at 31 years old, people in the industry were already telling her she was washed up. 31. The break finally came because Bill Cosby, filling in for Carson one night, watched a comic bomb and told the booking producer, "Joan Rivers couldn't be any worse than this guy." That was the pitch that got her through the door. She did not get the spot because someone believed in her. She got it because nobody had a better option. And when she walked out and started her set, the NBC pages left their posts to come watch. The stagehand stopped moving. Carson wiped tears from his eyes, waved her over to the couch, and said on air, "You're going to be a star." The next morning, she went to the bank to cover a bad check, and the teller said, "I saw you last night. Whatever you want. If you enjoy the stories behind the laughter, the careers, the pressure, the chaos behind the spotlight, help us build this channel and subscribe." That Tonight Show appearance in 1965 was the start of more than 20 years of one of television's most productive professional relationships. She returned almost 100 times. By the early 1980s, she was the permanent guest host, the person Carson trusted most to hold down the show when he was gone. She did opening monologues. She headlined Las Vegas. She got bigger. And then the gate moved again. By the mid-1980s, NBC executives had a quiet list circulating internally. 10 possible successors for Carson when he eventually retired. Joan Rivers was not on it. She had spent 2 decades building the show's audience, turned down other offers out of loyalty, and was not even in the conversation. At the same time, NBC was dragging their feet on renewing her contract and not paying her what she was worth. Then Fox came with $10 million and an offer to become the first woman in history to host her own late-night network talk show. She said yes. The first call she made was to Johnny Carson. He hung up. She called again. He hung up again. He never spoke to her for the rest of his life. What followed was a blacklisting so complete it outlasted Carson himself. His pull in Hollywood was so total that Jay Leno honored it. Conan O'Brien honored it. Joan Rivers did not appear on The Tonight Show again until February 2014, when Jimmy Fallon took over, 49 years after her original debut. Carson had been dead for nearly a decade by then, and the ban was still in place until a new generation decided to lift it. The Fox show collapsed for reasons that had almost nothing to do with comedy. Before it even aired, the production was at war with itself. Rupert Murdoch and Barry Diller clashed constantly with her husband Edgar Rosenberg, who was the executive producer. The fights were not about comedy. They were about Pepsi versus Coke backstage, M&M's versus Hershey Kisses. Petty little wars that slowly poisoned the entire production. Petty, grinding institutional warfare that wore everyone down. Then one Thursday night, Fox called her in and said she had to fire her husband. She refused. They fired her instead. 7 months after the show launched, it was over. 3 months after that, Edgar Rosenberg was dead. He took his own life in Philadelphia. Rivers later said she believed the humiliation of being removed from the show had broken him. She was 53 years old, broke, blacklisted by the most powerful gatekeeper in her industry, widowed and canceled. The comeback from that point is what the 2010 documentary, A Piece of Work, captures a glimpse of. A woman who kept working, kept writing, kept building, long after everyone around her assumed she was finished. She went back to daytime television and launched the Joan Rivers Show in 1989, winning an Emmy for Outstanding Talk Show Host. She performed stand-up in every room available to her, from casino floors to sold-out theaters. She wrote 12 books. None of it looked like the comeback people expected. That was exactly why it worked. She covered red carpets for the TV Guide channel, then for E! on Fashion Police, turning celebrity fashion into a sharp weekly instrument of comedy. She launched an online talk show on YouTube in 2013 at the age of 79. And across 24 years on QVC, her jewelry and beauty lines generated over $1 billion in sales. Here is what she said about surviving all of it. You have to be very, very strong and push your way through, or people will shove you under. It is survival of the fittest. She and Rosenberg referred to her career as the career, as though it were a living third party in their marriage, a thing they had to protect and feed. She kept protecting it long after he was gone. She kept a physical file cabinet, over 65,000 original jokes, documented from the 1950s until 2014, the year she died. Not typed, not stored on a server, written out and cataloged by hand. Every career move was tactical. Every joke was a choice. The woman who was told she was washed up at 31 spent the next 5 decades making sure the industry never got to make that call again. The gate kept moving. She kept forcing her way through it anyway.